Hey, you have taken an image in your camera just now. You just saw it through your camera screen. It looks awesome. You take your SD card, just put the image on your PC and check the image. It looks a bit of underexposed or overexposed. Have you faced this issue in your photos? Like it looks good in your camera while in PC it looks underexposed or overexposed. Do you know why that actually happened? Because you thought the exposure was correct without checking the histogram. So yes guys, welcome to the channel. I am Kario from India. We talk photography, filmmaking, editing and many other social media stuffs that help creators like us. So in this video we are going to see all about histogram that you actually missed to know about. So there are some misleads about histogram as well, so we are going to discuss all that. Yes guys, if you're new to the channel, do hit that subscribe button. That would be here, I think. Yeah, just hit that subscribe button and click on the bell icon to get regularly notified whenever I make a video. Yes guys, without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Welcome back guys. So one of the biggest tools of any camera that's been overlooked by beginner photographers or even improving photographers is the histogram. So what is a histogram? Histogram is simply a graph that just displays the amount of light that's been distributed on your frame. Was that a big definition? It just displays the amount of light or exposure on your frame. So histogram graph helps us to just find the exposure, if it is good or bad, or if it is underexposed or overexposed. That can be measured with the help of this histogram graph. So almost all the cameras just has the capacity to show this histogram graph on your display whenever you take an image or video, but it's mostly overlooked or ignored. So what happens when you ignore your histogram? You may get an underexposed or overexposed image. You just feel like you have a good image while seeing through your camera's display, while when you just import the image into your PC it looks underexposed or overexposed. So first let's see what are the reasons why your images are getting underexposed or overexposed. So under harsh light conditions or even at low light conditions, your display is not clear. It can be looking good on your display, but you don't have a clear vision of what is actual exposure that's the camera gonna capture. And one more reason is the brightness level of your display. The brightness level on your camera display can be more tricky enough to confuse you with the exposure measurements, and that's why you may have a bad image when you just import your image into your PC. It can be underexposed or overexposed. So how can we avoid this? And that's how histogram comes to the play. So with the help of the graph, we need not rely on the display brightness or the screen that's going to display our image. We can rely on the histogram that's going to show us the exposure on that image. So yes guys, moving on to the next step. How to find in the histogram graph if it is a good exposed or a bad exposed image. So before just moving into it, we just need to know what is that graph actually showing, right? So this histogram graph that you see on your camera has the brightness on the x-axis from 0 to 100. It's divided into 5 different sections: blacks from 0 side, blacks, shadows, mid-tones, highlights and whites. So that's how this x-axis is divided. Now moving on to the y-axis. Y-axis is the amount of pixels that's been available on that image. So I hope I made it clear. Brightness, pixels. 0 to 100%, this may vary according to the brightness. So now we have understood what that graph actually shows, right? Now, what is a good exposed image? There is some misconception that when the graph is at the center, like if the graph is like this, I'm not playing piano guys, many of you would have said this, that if your graph is at the center, you have a well exposed image, right? Okay, I accept that, but it doesn't mean like if your graph is more towards the left or if your graph is more towards the right, it's bad exposed. It's not like that. So they have just taught you the first point correctly, but they have been missing to say you on the second point, which is clipping. So clipping is the process by which this graph touches the extreme left or the extreme right of your histogram graph. Got it? So if the graph on your histogram touches the extreme left line or the extreme right line, then clipping occurs, which means the extreme left is underexposed and the extreme right is overexposed. Got it? Got it clear? Okay, next, moving to the next point. Now just consider you are taking an image and the frame is having lot of blacks in it. Means you have more of black or dark objects in your frame and you have less amount of whites or highlights on your frame. Then your graph is gonna move towards the left. Okay, but if it is not touching the extreme left line, then it's actually a good exposed image. Similar way, just consider you are just going to take a product photography of some white object and even your background is white and you don't have any other colors, you don't have much blacks. Then what will happen, guys? You don't have blacks on your image, you don't have much blacks. So obviously the graph is just gonna move towards the right. Yes. So if you have less amount of blacks on your screen or your image, then the graph is gonna move towards the right, which makes you think like it's overexposed, right? No. Unless clipping happens, once again I am just making it clear, if it touches the right line or the left line, it is called as clipping. So unless it touches the clipping, unless it touches the right line, it's actually a good image. You have a good exposed image, even if the graph is towards the right. There's no issue on that, guys. Just make sure the pixels, the peak points, right? The peak points doesn't touch the top. So if it touch the top, which means like that particular point is actually having more pixels. Like if you have a peak point at the highlights region, which means like you have more highlights. If you have a peak point at the shadows region, which means like you have more shadows. If your graph is touching the peak points at the top of the histogram graph, just adjust your ISO aperture or shutter speed settings to just bring it down a bit, not too down, a bit, to an extent that you have a good amount of highlight or shadows. You got it right? So yes guys, just know this one too, it's not that only if the graph is on the center of the bar it is well exposed. It doesn't mean like that. Even if it is moved towards the left or moved towards the right, unless clipping happens, once again I am saying, unless clipping happens, it is good exposed or well exposed image. So yes guys, there is no such thing like this is the perfect histogram graph or this is the perfect histogram exposure, nothing like that. You are clear on this point, right? If clipping happens, it is underexposed or overexposed, else it's a good image. That's it guys. That's all you need to know about histogram. So yes guys, I hope I made it clear of all about histogram. Just make sure you don't have clipping. So yes guys, I hope this video was helpful. If yes, do hit that like button and let me know in comments what all kind of videos you want from me. So yes guys, that's it for this video. We'll meet in another video. Until then, it's your Kario signing off.